And away we go. Good evening. Welcome into another episode of America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike. Thanks for checking back in with us in what is going to be, I'm very sad to say, the last episode of October. And then it'll be November, which is, that's the month that comes after October. So that is some depressing shit right there. But this episode will be out on Halloween, so happy Halloween to all of our listeners. Hope you have enjoyed the month of October and have lots of fun things planned for Halloween itself. But we do have a lot of things to talk about here tonight, as usual. So why don't we jump right on in? Let me get the housekeeping shite out of the way, and I'll start off first with where you can find us online. The first and foremost place would be our website. It's ahpod.com. It's AHHPOD.com. More on that in a little bit. You can also find us on pretty much every social media platform: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search for America's Hometown Horror and we'll pop right up there. You will find us. And you can also email us at hometownhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. And in addition to that, we are also partnering now with two partners. Way to go, Mike. First of which is horrorfacts.com. That would be Horror Facts Magazine, a great resource for any horror fan. Horrorfacts.com, great place for news, reviews, and podcasts just like ours. Head on over to horrorfacts.com and check them out if you have not yet. And of course, the first name in fright since 1979, Fangoria magazine, we are now partnering with as well to give our listeners an exclusive 20% discount on any merchandise and any first-time magazine subscription. So head on over to shop.fangoria.com/hometownhorrorpod and use the code hometownhorrorpod for your exclusive 20% discount on any Fangoria merch. So go on over and buy yourself some shit from our friends over at Fangoria. All right, now that I got that out of the way, let's speak to our co-hosts this evening, as Kat remains to be off, but is still doing very well. Just taking it easy tonight. Andrew, Matt, gentlemen, how's it going? And happy Halloween to you.
What's going on, buds?
Good evening.
Good evening indeed.
Coming up close. Halloween's almost here.
Mm-hmm. It is right around the corner.
Yes, it is. Well, as of this recording, it will be today. So happy Halloween.
Wow.
Ooh.
I'm putting this out on Halloween. So
that makes sense.
There you go.
That's exciting.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. So we're going to do a little bit different tonight. I know we've been talking about movies and a bunch of other stuff this month. We've done a draft quite yet, or at least in a month. So we're going to do another draft tonight with the biz. So that should be fun. But as we usually do, I feel like before we get started with all the draft stuff, we should probably talk about some of the things that we've been watching over the last week. But before we do that, a couple of quick items. One, I want to thank our guest from last week, J-Bone, Justin McLaughlin, for coming on. I think he had a pretty good time. You can now listen to that episode where we covered Event Horizon, and had a great time talking horror with him. He was an awesome guest. I would love to have him back.
Yeah, Justin had a lot of fun with that. I was talking to him earlier too, and I'd love to have him back again. Another episode. He brought a lot of good content, so I was happy.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely knows his stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks again to Justin, longtime supporter of the show. Always good to talk to people that know a lot about horror stuff. So, and the next thing I want to talk about, I did mention our website earlier. Again, ahpod.com. If you are to go onto that website, you will now find that there is a new section added to said website, and that would be a blog. So it turns out that, we actually have had this for a while. It just wasn't enabled on the website, and there were a few old posts on there from Kat and Andrew. But admittedly, we have not used it very much, and I decided that I wanted to change that. So opened the blog up on the website. It's now available to be viewed with some of the old posts that are on there. And the most recent one is a little something that I wrote kind of celebrating the VHS franchise. I know I kind of waxed poetically about the latest installment in the series on last week's episode, and I still love VHS 99 and the entire franchise as a whole. So if you're interested in that franchise, or if you want to check out our blog, head on over to our website and check out the piece that I wrote, where I rank all of the segments of every VHS movie. So the first one, VHS 2, VHS Viral, VHS 94, and VHS 99. So it's even including the newest movie. So, with that being said, you'll be seeing some more blogs from us in the upcoming weeks and months. Gentlemen, you guys got any ideas cooking in your heads for anything to put out there in the ether coming up?
Got a few countdowns I'm thinking of throwing in there. Some foreign, maybe a foreign movie countdown, something different.
Excellent. Yeah, you don't have to give me an answer right now. I was just curious if you guys had anything top of mind.
The one that you did was really good. That
Why,
VHS
thank you,
one.
sir.
Yeah, it was
I
very well
appreciate
written.
that. Thank you.
Very well read. Well written, not read. Read very well though too. So.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
You are you did have. I don't know if you mentioned the fact that you did have a little some point in time on a certain magazine.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I've definitely I've mentioned that before. But yeah. Well, actually, it's funny because we so with Shudder's 101 Scariest Horror Movie Moments ending today, and I did watch the final episode. And as you mentioned in our text thread, Matt, it was pretty satisfying. Yeah. There was some stuff in the top 10 that I guess I was expecting, but maybe not as high on the countdown. I feel like with the top 10, Matt, those were like you movies through and through. There were so many of your like favorites on there. So I could see why you were definitely very excited about this. But yeah, so I wrote a piece about like the original version of that that got put on Bloody Disgusting. If you head on over to Twitter, that's pinned at the top of our Twitter profile, so you can check that out if you so please as well. Thank you for reminding me, Andrew.
One should never forget that. It's a glorious moment,
yeah.
So.
Of course. All right. Anywho, guys, ready to talk about some things that we've been watching?
Yeah.
All right. I don't have a ton. I kind of blew my wad last week. I had about 15 things that I talked about. So.
Yeah, you had a bunch. I was like, damn, dude.
So I'll go quick. I guess I mostly have been watching the Midnight Club on Netflix, which I know we kind of talked about last week with Justin because he had just started as well. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and it's okay. This is the latest show from Mike Flanagan, who's done, obviously for movies, Dr. Sleep, Hush, Gerald's Game, but he also did Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, and Midnight Mass. I think all three of those shows I do enjoy more than this one at this point so far.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. I think I have about 4 episodes left, or like 3.5. So we'll see how it ends. It's definitely, it's very like Goosebumps-ish, but obviously like intended for like an older audience. Lots of 90s nostalgia. Soundtrack's probably the most consistently excellent part. The soundtrack is fantastic. But yeah. So I've been watching that. It's pretty good. We'll see how the rest of that goes. And I did, as I mentioned, finish the 101 Scariest Horror Movie Moments on Shudder. You can now stream every episode of that. Andrew, did you finish that as well, or are you still a couple behind?
I'm actually caught up, but I need to watch the latest.
The newest one. Okay.
Episode. Yeah, which I'm going to probably watch after this.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so maybe we can talk about that next week, because obviously it's not the top 10 at least. You want to see. Yeah, you want to see what the top 10 are at least, I would say. So
yeah, that's the whole. I mean, but I've enjoyed just all the segment. Like I don't even knowing what the top 10 are going to be. It still wouldn't ruin.
What I'll say is they definitely lean into the foreign horror a good amount in the top 10, and some absolute classics as well. So there's a good balance of everything.
Yeah, it is.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
And actually, one fairly recent movie that I was very excited to see as high as it was. Come to think of it, Matt, I remember when they announced this show and they like had a thing on Twitter where you could guess what like the top 3 were. I think you actually might have had that, if I remember right. I'm gonna have to go back and look. You might have had it.
Damn,
you might have had it as your yeah. So anyway, we'll talk about that next week once Andrew's watched.
I think one was in the top 10, but below the top 3. But yeah. I think I was 2 for 3.
Okay, perfect. And then I did rewatch VHS 99 again, just because I've had nothing but downtime on my hands. So, and then so I know you guys have probably. I think I saw that you were doing some rewatching of the VHS stuff. So I'm sure we could probably talk about VHS 99 if either of you guys watched that. But I'll defer to. Okay, so you haven't seen that one yet, Andrew. You did watch it though, right? Why don't we go to you next, Andrew? What have you been watching besides or VHS 99 and what else?
I watched VHS 99. Not bad, pretty good. I like the other ones a little bit better. This one was good, but I like some of the other ones better. I feel like I was like cleaning and doing stuff while I was watching it though, so it's not like 100% invested when I was watching it. So some like effect on it, so I kind of want to rewatch it. I undivided it.
So you were watching it like the way Kat watches stuff sometimes.
Kind of, yeah, but I mean, I had the volume up high, and I wasn't doing dishes and laundry stuff like that. So, but I did watch one particular segment sitting down, and it was good. It just wasn't what I was.
Which one was this?
It was still good. That was the Double Dare one.
Oh,
that segment again.
Yeah. See, so it's called
Which we
Ozzy's
have very
Dungeon.
differing opinions on Ozzy's Dungeon.
Yeah, so I'm actually surprised to hear you say that. Were you a big Nickelodeon kid growing up, or no?
Oh yeah, like I just feel like it didn't hit on the level that it was just weird. I don't know. Like I get where they were going with it, and I got nostalgia feel to it, but it just didn't. I don't know. There's something. I have to rewatch that one too. I mean, I don't know if I was in a negative mind frame watching it or something. I feel like I should have liked a lot of it more than I did. I need to get high.
Definitely being stoned would, I feel like, appreciate your enjoyment of that one. But I mean, I just thought it was super weird. Maybe I overhyped it for you. I don't know. I guess we'll.
Like sometimes things get overhyped, like most movies nowadays that we go and see. But no, I mean, all in all, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10.
Okay, that's. I mean, I feel like for you, that's pretty good.
It's better than most movies I watch. So
yeah, right.
It's better than most movies that I have on my list for tonight's draft. So.
Fair enough. All right. So So what was I going to say? So yeah, what else you been watching besides VHS 99?
So I did a couple of rewatches, but that involving the draft. Disclose those just yet. And I did watch the first episode of the Jeffrey Dahmer tapes. Yeah, I mean it's exactly what.
Nice.
Don't really need to get into that much.
Yeah, I gotta check that out for sure. I know I've been trying to get Kat to watch that, but I think she's a little bit Jeffrey Dahmer out after the Evan Peters series, so maybe we'll go back to that one come November.
Yeah, it has been a little bit overkill with the whole Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, all at once is a weird move.
Yeah, bold move, Cotton.
Do you enjoy being depressed for 2 months and feeling uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's just like miserable content.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
cool.
That's about it,
cool.
Though.
All right, awesome. Mr. Audette, what do we got?
I got a lot of rewatches. But I did watch, so I watched VHS 2, VHS Viral, and VHS 94, which I just watched today. They're cool. Viral,
okay.
like I was saying to you either yesterday or the other day, Viral I didn't think was like that great. I probably won't go back to that one. But the rest of them are fine. They're fun. The thing with anthology movies is I kind of have a hard time. Like, it was kind of what Andrew said. Like, I can easily find myself, like, doing other stuff. Because it's, like, every time you get, once the story really picks up, it's, like, the last 5-10 minutes of it. And then you just got to start over with, like, development of a new story. So it kind of, like, I kind of, like, lose interest a little bit. Unless they're, like, really crazy right off the bat. But it's just always been the same way with any kind of anthology setup like that. It's my attention span doesn't keep up well. So... But otherwise, no. I think that they're great. I'm curious to see if there's going to be like a kind of a pickup in anthology horror, because we have all these like American Horror Story things coming out. We got that Cabinet of Curiosities, which just came out.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Actually, I watched the first episode of that. I forgot to mention too, but continue. Go ahead. Yeah,
I watched the first one. So I'm curious to see if we're gonna like. It'd be cool to see like a big, really well done setup with like multiple like big name directors do some sort of theatrical like anthology movie. Kind of like it's like that hasn't happened, I imagine, since like Creepshow, right?
Yeah, there definitely hasn't been one with as much like star power behind it. You know, because Creepshow obviously you get Romero and Stephen King, but. Yeah, I feel like the ones that have come out, I mean, aside from maybe like Trick or Treat was pretty star-studded, but I mean, yeah, All Hallows Eve, that was another one. But I feel like a lot of the other ones that have come out in recent years, like there's a few of them on Shudder. Like I know the Mortuary Collection is one of them.
Yeah.
Tales of Halloween, that's another one. Both of which I haven't seen either of those. So I do have to. Those have been like in my queue to watch like fucking forever. So I just gotta pull the trigger and do that. But yeah, you don't really see too many like anthology horror movies get wide releases anymore. And maybe that's just because television has become so much more accessible now and of higher quality with Netflix and Hulu and all the streaming services that are out there. So
makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So,
well, did you have like a favorite segment out of all of them, or did you have a movie that you liked the best?
I I really liked the second one. I liked the zombies on the bike path, but I'm not like a big zombie guy, so
Yeah.
but I was like, oh, like that's actually pretty cool. It was pretty wild. I liked the what else? There was the one with the dude in the first one who is like video chatting with his girlfriend, and
Yes.
the one with like the little kids and stuff. That one was pretty crazy. And
Yeah,
then
that
the
one's
first, I think it was the first segment in the second one too, where the guy gets that contact thing in his eye.
yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, that was good. I had a lot. I think the second one so far has been my favorite, just like front to back. That
Okay.
whole movie was pretty solid.
Nice.
But let's see what else. I had a lot, like I said, a lot of rewatches. I rewatched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I rewatched Dead Alive, which I haven't fucking found in a long time. But I
Yes.
found this like movie website. I've been listening to this podcast called Speak All Evil, and they kind of talk about a lot of more of the fucked up movies that me or maybe Andrew might be keen to. But and so I've been kind of getting back into watching some of those like really heavy movies. I just got like a Blu-ray edition of Cannibal Holocaust, so I was like, fuck it, I might as well check that out again. And it's just as fucking miserable as the other two times I watched it. But it's it's so well done. It's crazy, the juxtaposition between the content and the actual film of like the film. Rewatched Carrie, which was always great. I rewatched Dawn of the Dead, the original one. Martyrs, just because I've been just really going back into the heavy stuff. But if you haven't seen Martyrs, you definitely it's worth watching one time. It's hailed as quite a horror movie endurance test, I would say.
Yeah, I've heard that. I need to watch that.
It's very good. It's very sad, but it's like it's a fucking crazy movie. And then me and Sarah just watched Barbarian.
Nice.
It was like pulling teeth, but I got
Nice.
to watch it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So yeah, as this recording, that's available on HBO Max now, correct?
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's such a nice, quick fucking movie. Like it's like 89 minutes, maybe. It flies.
Perfect length for every horror movie.
Yeah, and it's just, dude, that movie's so great. So I like it even more knowing like what's gonna happen.
Nice. Yeah, I got to go back and take a look at that one again.
Yeah, that's a good one. Other than that, I watched that Lot 36 from the Cabinet of Curiosities. That was interesting.
Yep.
So I don't know. Guillermo del Toro is he's a boss. So I was pretty excited to see that come to Netflix.
Dude, he rocks, and I feel like the episodes that are coming out from Cabinet of Curiosities, there's like some really big names that are directing these episodes. So actually, it's funny, we were kind of just talking about this for a movie, but I feel like this is kind of like the biggest collection of horror directors since either you guys watched the Masters of Horror show that was on Showtime back in the day that Mick Garris put together.
Yep.
Yeah, that one definitely that had some huge names behind it. Let me see if I can find some of these directors here.
They had everybody. That was like, if you weren't on it, like you're not fucking making movies.
Right?
Because there was like 2 seasons. It was like 30-something episodes.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot.
But I know this new one has like the director of like the Babadook, the director of Mandy.
Yes.
And then what else? There's another like really big one.
So let's see. I know. So Panos Cosmatos is one of the guys, and he directed that movie Mandy with Nicolas Cage. Jennifer Kent, she's the one that directed the Babadook. Vincenzo Natali, we talked about him last week because he directed that movie Cube that Justin was talking about that came out in '97.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keith Thomas, David Pryor, Guillermo Navarro, Catherine Hardwicke, and Anna Lily Armir-Poor. And the first one, Lot 37 or 36, whatever it is, that one's actually directed by Del Toro.
Yep.
So yeah, good stuff.
Like a horror anthology lends better to a limited series because I prefer with those anthology type horror movies to be like 45 minutes to an hour. I feel like it's a better length. Like when they're 25 minutes, I feel like sometimes it's try to squeeze too many in. I would rather just fewer stories, more cohesive, better content, jamming 5 stories a minute each.
As long as they pack a punch, I'm happy.
Yeah, as long as they're not drawn out for no reason.
Right.
I can understand that. I can understand. It seems like I'm the only one that is completely obsessed with these VHS movies, but that's okay. I understand that I'm a psycho.
Oh, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of segments of VHS that I absolutely adore. Do
you have a favorite, Andrew?
I can't remember the name of it, and I can't remember which one it's from. But I feel like it's like in that like emergency room with like Asian doctors, some batshit going on, and I can't remember.
Oh, dude, that's in the second one.
That one's called That's called Safe Haven.
That's
the one where
Safe Haven. Yeah, that one's
fire.
That one's like, oh.
Spoiler alert. That's pretty high on my list on my my blog post. Yeah. Pretty high.
As it should be.
Some might say that it's harder to get much higher than that one on the list.
Yeah, that seems, from what I was looking at, that seems to be a crowd favorite.
Yeah, dude, fucking banana shit. And then so the guy that directed that one in VHS 2 also directed the one of the segments from VHS 94, which, Matt, that was the one with the like the mad scientist and like the human robot like hybrid monsters.
Yeah,
that one was fucking crazy too.
Yeah, so, they're all pretty over the top.
Yeah, you can see similar threads between the two of those, but yeah. All right, cool. Where were we?
That's all my watching stuff.
All right, excellent. All right, so sounds like we watched a lot of stuff as we usually do, which is good. So why don't we get drafting? But before we do so, why don't we take a quick 90-second break here and get a word from our sponsors? We'll return shortly.
It's official. The critics' decision is in.
Spooky World is spectacular.
Enter the new Black Hole.
If you dare.
Or the new horror House of Wax. This year, don't miss the real Jason, Bobby Pickett, or Alice Cooper. Phone the 24-hour Spooky World hotline. 508-838-0200. That's 508-838-0200. Spooky World is just west of Boston and haunts every night from October 1st till November 1st. If you had the nerve, you'd phone 508-838-0200.
It's America's horror theme park, Spooky World.
Don't be scared. I'm the super sweet monster with the super sweet new cereal, Count Chocula.
Biffle, here's the super sweet new cereal, Frankenberry.
But I've got chocolate sweeties for monstrous chocolate flavor.
Well, I've got berry-flavored sweeties for monstrous strawberry flavor.
Count Chocula.
Frankenberry.
Hi.
Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
Sleepy Clovers!
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
The new face of evil is going to scare you to death. Barrett's Haunted Mansion. It's killer this year. Then right next door to the Abington Ale House. Barrett's Haunted Mansion. Eat, drink, and be scary. Go to bhmansion.com.
And we're back. That was a nice crack. I got a nice little echo off the dining.
I was trying to time it when you were going to do like I was like, can I time this perfectly?
That's okay. What are you drinking?
Pulp Daddies.
Pulp Daddies. You love Pulp Daddies.
I stare at the aisle for like 20 minutes and I'm like, God damn it.
I feel like I'd be remiss if I did not mention this is my favorite yearly release from our friends over at Second Wind Brewing downtown. I don't know if Andrew, you've probably had it, I think. Matt, you might have too.
Yeah.
So they have the Power Sour series. Yeah, the Ecto Cooler one. So obviously you get the Ghostbusters connection, but it's so friggin' goddamn good. I love their Power Sours.
Isn't there who else makes an Ecto Cooler one? Wasn't there?
I'm not sure. I think this is the only one I've ever come across.
What I'm thinking. Oh.
That's all right. No worries. All right. So anyway, why don't we do some drafting here, gentlemen? And tonight, I believe, as the last draft was an idea from our buddy Matt, and it is a good one. One that actually I found a little bit more difficult than I imagined to come up with, like some really solid, picks for this, because I feel like there's
roster too.
Yeah. For sure. And of course, that topic is drafting horror movie sequels. So obviously, no shortage of movies to discuss, to pick, to talk about. So I'm sure that we'll probably have some differing opinions. I think there's probably a few big ones that will probably get taken here if I had to make some guesses.
Yeah.
So I'm almost even tempted to not even try and do those ones. And I think you guys all probably have an idea of the same movies we're talking about. But again, I don't think we should put anything off the table here. So pick whatever you shall like.
Luckily, before we started,
Allen's first pick.
Yeah, right. Luckily, before we started, Matt let me know that the movie doesn't have to have a name. So I appreciate that.
Because there was a few that I didn't think of either that I was like, oh, shit. Like,
I found a list that was like 1,500 movies. And I just scrolled through it because I was like, I need to get at least like 8 or 9 that I like this draft. I'm fully confident that I'll get all of what I want.
I like that.
So looking at my list, I have a list here of 3, 6, 9. I have 12 movies on my list. Only one of them has a number in the title.
Wow.
Yeah, which I feel like is weird. But
You look at my list.
I feel one of my pet peeves about sequels, I feel like it's so much easier for someone to just slap a number on the same title. I like when people actually don't do that. It's actually its own different title. So I'm a fan of that. Or actually, nope. I lied. I have 2 here.
I have 25 movies.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
God damn, son.
There's a good handful that are not named with a number.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. So why don't we get drafting here? Let me fire up this list randomizer and get us a draft order, gentlemen.
Are we doing 4 or 5?
Let's go for 4 and see where we're at for time, and maybe go from there. How about that?
Okay.
All right. So. Obviously, we're doing snake draft style. If you're familiar with fantasy sports, you probably know what a snake style draft is. So first person picks, second person picks, and then the third person gets 2 picks in a row, and it goes in reverse order and back and back and back. So the first pick will go to Matt, the second pick will go to Andrew, and then I will have the third pick. So
love being in the middle.
With that being said, Matt, you are on the board, my friend.
All right, let's see here. I'm going to go, my first pick is going to be 1978, George A. Romero, Dawn of the Dead.
I don't even know why I put this on my list, because I
surprised.
knew that you were going to take it.
There's certain movies that I just don't even bother with. I'm like,
This is my favorite zombie movie of all time. Just rewatched it. There is a 3D showing of it all weekend in Kingston.
Really?
Yeah. Tomorrow,
Well,
Friday,
awesome.
Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I think. So that's rad. But this movie kicks so much ass. I have 3 versions of this between the theatrical cut, the American director's cut, and the Italian director's cut, which that's a whole long story. But and it's so fucking rad. The special effects, everything that Tom Savini did and brought to the table, it was like a revolutionary. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead's revolutionary, but to have this be the second movie, it's got so much to say. It's fucking super like claustrophobic and crazy. Everything that goes on, like there's so many good tense scenes and like the blue zombies and everything. It's just every time I like think of it, it's very like it's an original. That's a classic. That is what I would define as like a top 3 horror all-time classic. And it is a sequel. So that's going to be my first pick. That is a fucking banger of a movie. Highly recommend if you have not seen it. If you can find it, it is a pain. Actually, no, it's on YouTube. It is on YouTube.
Hard to find a better number 1 pick themselves.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, that movie rocks. It's fantastic. The effects, like you mentioned, are awesome. They're just nasty. I mean, obviously they look a little like, not super dated, but they, you can tell them it was made in 1978. But I feel like there's just something different about it, and everything's practical. It looks great. The the idea of pitting this group of survivalists against zombies in a mall is genius. Mm-hmm. And obviously you mentioned it has a lot to say, Matt, and I think it has a lot to say about, American consumerism. Romero had no shortage of things to say in his movies. I feel like most, if not all of his movies were about something, or he was trying to say something that was on his mind.
Yep, absolutely. Social commentary to the max.
And this movie
for sure
spawned one of the greatest remakes of all time.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Say what you will about Zack Snyder, but the Dawn of the Dead remake from 2004 kicks kind of a lot of fucking ass.
Mm-hmm. That's such a fun movie. Such a fun remake.
Yeah, it's awesome. Even just like the first 10 or 15 minutes are just kick ass and awesome. That actually, no, they both did. I was going to say, so Snyder's Dawn of the Dead made it onto the Shudder countdown along with the original one as well. So there were 2 Dawn of the Dead entries on this, which I thought was kind of cool. Cool. All right, so Dawn of the Dead off the board. A great number 1 pick. Great prospect out there. Lots of talent. Obvious number 1 overall pick. Mel Kiper approves. All right, Andrew, you're up next, buddy. What's it going to be?
Well, as usual, I'm not going to go any movies that, should be taken. But I think this one should be taken. I also think that if I don't take this movie right now, it is not going to come back to me. So, having said that, I have 2 choices and neither one of them. And that pick is going to be 2019, directed by Mike Flanagan, Dr. Sleep.
I hate you.
I know you. I knew you were going to take this fight into. I think the more I've watched this movie and the more I've watched The Shining, I think I like this better than The Shining by like a wide mark. I think it's just such a better story. It's more interesting. It's got a great villain with Rose the Hat, not to mention Rebecca Ferguson, lady. Also, it's got my man crush, Gregor. It's got one of the. I think this was in the Shudder 100 scariest moments.
Definitely.
It was.
The scene where they're killing that kid in the baseball field. That's one of the most uncomfortable scenes that I've seen in a long time, and it's really not. It really shouldn't be that uncomfortable, but it is. Like just the way it's shot is perfectly done. I just love the whole premise of this movie. Like I feel like The Shining. It just played perfectly. Like you wanted to know what happened and where he ended up. Like there was a big gap in between when Stephen King wrote The Shining and Dr. Sleep. Like what was it, like 30-something years in between?
Something like that. It was a really long time.
Yeah, it was from 78 to 2013 or something like that.
And I think that delay probably served well in this case, because I feel like if he had rushed out a sequel to that book right after the fact, it probably would have been so much different. Probably more cocaine driven. Probably not as good as what we got. And Mike Flanagan was extremely well acted. That's a movie that I could watch over and over again. And like, it's just so good.
It is a great one. It's impressive that he was able to take elements from the book and from like the book Dr. Sleep, the book The Shining, and Kubrick's The Shining, and like kind of bridge those gaps and make it all relevant and not like too heavy in one direction or the other. I think it kind of it was in everyone's favor, fans of all sides. So I was impressed by it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what you guys both said. I've gone on record on this show multiple times, and I think that this is a masterpiece. I'm not going to quite go as far as Andrew and say that it's better than The Shining, because that is a fucking nuclear hot take that I feel like most people would not agree with. I respect it, even though I might not agree with it. But I mean, this movie, I feel like if most people were trying to conjure up an idea for what a sequel to The Shining might be, this is definitely not that. And obviously, with the movie, there's for reasons that are well documented between the relationship between Stanley Kubrick and Stephen King. Look it up. I'm not going to hash that all out here. But Flanagan had to essentially bridge the gap between, the movie, Stanley Kubrick's movie, and the original book. And obviously, in the book sequel, the hotel's not there. But I think the fact that this movie goes back to the Overlook and it just looks awesome. I think it's one of the coolest things to see if you're a horror fan that's come out in the last 5 years. The last decade. I think it's one of the coolest things to see as a horror fan is a return trip to the Overlook. Mm-hmm. I also think that in this movie, the fact that they did not try to like digitally reinsert actors from the first movie and they recasted them with lookalikes, I think that was a genius decision. Mm-hmm. Depending on what your tolerance for Henry Thomas as Jack Torrance is, I actually thought he pulled it off pretty nicely. So
the thing
could have done that weird aging thing that they did with like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro and what was that? Just
the Irishman.
Yeah, the Irishman.
That was weird. I didn't like that. It just felt weird.
For me, the thing with flashbacks where you have other actors playing people than the original casted actors is that it kind of gives this element of like forgetfulness where it is a flashback and it's like you're living your own memory that's just kind of like putting the picture back together. So I could just be like overlooking that, but that's always kind of how I've like looked at stuff.
You couldn't have said that more perfectly. That is one of the best comments that I think I've heard. That's like a perfect way. Because you never remember
one of the
your
best things I've ever heard ever.
Because if you really think about it, he's completely right. Your memories are never the way that they were a memory. So that's like perfection. Mike had to walk away. It's like I gotta get out. But you couldn't have like that. That's a perfect way of describing why that was a good reason. I don't know if that's why they did it that way.
No, definitely not.
Isn't, but that is straight out of the mouth of a pothead.
That's my way of like allowing myself to like forgive it for not being perfect and having the theories.
I will say one of my themes that you're going to notice favorite sequels is that I feel like all of these movies I'm going to pick are perfect standalone movies. Like they don't even really need to be sequels. Like obviously this has prior information, but it's perfect as itself. Like you could watch this movie and never have seen The Shining, and it is a perfect.
I think there'd be a little context missing, but
A little bit.
I don't disagree completely.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike,
Dr.
what we got,
Sleep.
buddy?
You're up for 2,
Well,
baby.
I mean, all this discussion on Dr. Sleep is essentially just a stalling tactic for me to try and figure out what I was going to take. I thought for sure, well, I know what I'm going to do now is a fuck you to Andrew. So
I know what you're going to pick right now.
It's gonna come. Yeah, it's gonna come with one of my 2 picks here. I haven't decided which way I'm gonna go quite yet. So I'll tell you what. I'll just to stick it to Andrew right now. I'm gonna pick Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Obviously, we did a whole episode on that show last Halloween, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago because Kat hadn't seen it ever, and we watched it, and she actually liked it, which I would never have expected. Did not really seem to me to be her type of movie, but I almost kind of wonder what the direction of the Halloween franchise would have been, and if we'd be better off or worse off as horror fans if this movie had actually succeeded the way it was intended to take the direction of the franchise. Whereas, this was supposed to be an anthology series of movies after Halloween 2. John Carpenter wanted different stories set on Halloween, which is a great idea for an anthology series, and ultimately the masses of idiots that go to the movie theaters that had terrible opinions decided that they didn't want to like this movie because it didn't have Michael Myers aside from a commercial in the bar. And, this movie got shit all over until people, kind of pulled their heads out of their asses, I guess, and realized that, hey, this movie's actually pretty fucking interesting.
Yeah.
And it's, I think probably the second best movie in the franchise. I was almost going to pick the 2018 Halloween movie here because I really like that movie as well. It's not as good as Halloween 3, and Andrew took Dr. Sleep, so I had to stick it to him again, as I mentioned. But, I mean, it's dare I say, iconic if you're a horror fan now. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Could you have picked the 2018 Halloween movie?
That's a sequel, yeah.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because it's a direct continuation of the first movie.
Oh, that.
Yeah, so that would have counted for sure. So Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
3. As I've said in unpopular opinion already, Halloween 3 is better than Halloween or any other Halloween for that matter. So that pick immensely.
Yeah, I knew that was going to go first round. Someone was taking.
Yeah, I mean it's
either me or
not quite as volcanic of a fiery take as The Shining isn't as good as Dr. Sleep, but. Hey, I'm not the biggest fan of slashers either, but I consider the original Halloween to kind of be on a different plane. So I can understand if
I never said The Shining wasn't as good as Dr. Sleep. It's better. There's a difference.
Okay, all right, sure.
I'm not besmirching The Shining.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so Halloween 3: Season of the Witch off the board. Just like Tom Atkins' pants in this movie, and you see his bare ass for a good 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. And his character, total fucking creep. And before I move on to my next pick, I'll say 5 more days till Halloween. Or actually, nope, as of this recording, today is Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Today is Halloween.
All right, so let's see here. So I am going to go with a movie that I don't think either one of you guys would pick here. This is a sequel to, so when this came out, it had been 17 years since the original movie came out. And this is definitely a sequel, but it is the sequel in a sense where it takes the formula of the first film and updates it in the 2010s. And I am talking about Adam Wingard, I believe is the guy that directed it. His sequel to 1999's The Blair Witch Project that is called Blair Witch. And I really dig this movie. I know a lot of people don't, but again, this is my list. Fuck you. This is my team. I'll pick who I want to pick. And I just think it's a smart concept for a sequel because obviously in 1999 the technology was not as advanced as it was in 2015 and when they shot the movie in 2016 when it came out. And I think it's a good idea to kind of have the characters in this new movie do the exact same thing. But oh hey, what happened to them in 1999 can't happen to us because we have so much more technology. We have drones, we have cell phones now, we have GPS tracking devices, we have 8,000 cameras. We've told 15 people that we're going to be here, and there's a search party set to come get us if we're not back in 2 days. So what could go wrong? But obviously things go very, very wrong. And it's tied into the first movie because the main character that's going out into the woods is the younger brother of the main girl, Heather, from the Blair Witch Project. And I love the Blair Witch Project, the original movie. I, in no way, shape, or form, think this is better than the Blair Witch Project, but it's a very good sequel. And it's very fucking scary, especially at the end. When you do get a look at the Blair Witch. Now, that might spoil it for some people because the first movie shows you very little, but this one does actually show you a lot more. And I saw this in theaters with Kat. I was pretty fucking scared.
I've never seen this movie.
I saw it in theaters when it came out. I was the only person in the theater.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. I believe it's on Hulu right now. Let me look it up. Hold on.
It definitely is on something. I go past it pretty frequently. I want to say Hulu is correct.
I mean, it also took me like 25 years to watch the original Blair Witch.
Yeah, that's fucking insane. So it's on Netflix right now, apparently. But yeah, Blair Witch was directed by Adam Wingard, who, he actually has become pretty well regarded in horror circles. Matt, you were talking about the VHS segment with the guy with the eye implant. He's actually the main character in that segment. He's an actor and a director.
Oh, no shit.
But he also went on to direct, or before this, he directed that movie You're Next, which is awesome.
Yeah, that movie's cool.
And then The Guest, which is a fantastic movie. And most recently, he directed Godzilla versus Kong. So he's gone on for bigger and better things. But yeah, I mean, if you like the first Blair Witch, if you like the Blair Witch Project, and you haven't seen this movie, take Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, throw it right in the fucking trash where it belongs, and then watch Blair Witch and come back to me. I don't think you'll be disappointed. So,
right on.
Cool. So yeah, that's what I got. So yeah, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and the Blair Witch, Blair Witch, not the Blair Witch, off the board. Two witch movies. Yeah, two witch movies to start off for me, which is not a direction I thought I was going to go.
Way are you going to go?
So that means that we're back to Andrew.
So Mike, as I had many regrets with my fantasy football draft, I'm beginning to have a little bit of a regret here now. So I just need to ask you, if I did not take Doctor, would it have made it back to me, or would it have been?
No, it would have been my first pick.
Okay. I feel better then, because I was like, could I have gotten both that and Halloween 3? Unlikely. You probably would have taken both, and I would have been.
No.
Ooh. So now to pick. All right. As I said before, another movie that upon watching it more and more, I find better than the original. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on a certain podcast. So I'm going to pick the 1988 gem Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. That movie's fucking awesome.
Yes,
the gore in that movie is phenomenal. The story it's got one of the best villains, modern cinema. Well, not modern. Dr. Shannard. Anyone that doesn't like this movie can go fuck themselves, because this would have been my number one pick if I knew Dr. Sleep was going to come back around.
Yeah, you were
I had a draft based off of where I was drafting. So this is my 1A. Dr. Sleep was my 1B.
This is the one that has the Pinhead origin story, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. And they go down into like the labyrinth in hell. And
this one's good.
He was like a Nazi, right? That's this
fucking
one, right?
Doug Bradley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this movie in forever. I definitely have seen it because I do remember that element. But yeah, I had a feeling that this would be on your board, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, I had this on mine too. This would have 100% gotten picked if it didn't go by like the next couple rounds.
Yeah, because you got two in a row after this, and I was like, that's not like I knew I would get this one, and then after that, I'm not really worried because I know any of my other picks. So I was like, I gotta get these two in, and this I could watch this movie. Like there's few movies that just and it's just.
I agree. This one also does kind of it goes a little better than the first one.
Yeah, it's again like I'm not gonna say it's a good. It would be a better. It's like it would be a perfect standalone movie. But it kind of would be because the first one doesn't explain fucking dick any what difference.
No.
Does it make, you know what I mean? Like this movie
Like
can
we were
stand
saying
on its
before,
own.
though, too, they play very well as like one whole thing.
Oh yeah, the menage of it is perfect. It just
Yeah.
blends in perfectly. It's phenomenally done.
Mhm.
I would.
Okay.
I'd be remiss
Nice.
to find a better movie.
Yeah. That's an Andrew pick.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. All right, so Hellbound, Hellraiser 2 off the board, which means we're back to Matt for 2 in a row.
Yep. So I'm gonna go for my second pick with Evil Dead 2.
Nice.
Knew this wasn't going to make it very far.
This is another. I was kind of back and forth if I wanted to do Army of Darkness or this one, but I'm gonna go with Evil Dead 2. It
You could be a
is
wild man
very
and do
similar
both.
to the. What's up?
I said you could be a wild man and take both of them.
I'm not gonna do that. This is a lot like with like what we were just saying about Hellbound being kind of in a way better than the first one because it has kind of this like redeveloped story from the first one that plays into the second one, and that's basically what this is. I remember watching this for the first time and being like, why is this dude going back to this cabin with a different girlfriend and doing this all again? Like, what is this dude's fucking problem? And so it took me a while and some IMDb facts to figure out that they just didn't have the copyright to kind of recreate the exact same story as like a prologue to the new one. So now I know that it's just kind of a jostled tale of the first one. But it's got great gore. This is like great Sam Raimi. This is where Evil Dead really kind of became what it is now. Is a bit more of like a campy, ultra violent, just wacky, fucking crazy movie and show and series and everything. This is Bruce Campbell at his just absolute best. And he's great in Army. Though he's great in everything, but this is my favorite of his. So yeah, Evil Dead 2 is going to be my number 2 pick. So that means that number 3.
Nice.
Are you guys getting a pattern here? The first one had no number. That one was number 2. So number 3 is going to be Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors.
There we go.
That wasn't on purpose, but I am going to pick this one because this is, in my opinion, I really always have enjoyed the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that that's just a great original horror movie. Wes Craven, it's classic. Freddy Krueger, it's fucking totally ups the antics with like the blood and just everything. But Dream Warriors is definitely the best. It's got a pretty solid cast. You know, you got Robert Englund back. You got a young Lawrence Fishburne. You got a young Patricia Arquette. You got Heather Langenkamp returning to reprise her role as Nancy. So it really just kind of ties in a lot of stuff because the first sequel, Freddy's Revenge, obviously abandons anyone in the first cast for the most part, other than being mentioned, and kind of follows this other kid around. And that's a really good sequel as well. It's very dark. It's super brutal. But this one just kind of, again, this is where it like ignited what we know Freddy is now, as this like one-line bitch slapping maniac. And the kills in it are fantastic. They're super creative, super fucking like they're just over the top. There's parts of it that you just cringe because you're just like, oh man, like that looks like it fucking sucks. But this is one of my favorites. And like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies overall, like they're not too terrible. Like they're just kind of goofy. Like, but for the most part, even all the sequels are still watchable and enjoyable. So, but this one's up there. This is a good one. So that's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warrior.
I think this one and New Nightmare are my 2 favorite Nightmare on Elm Street
New
sequels.
Nightmare is popular too. That's a good one.
And I had to look it up. Like the 80s, like the song on the soundtrack for this, which is just called Dream Warriors. I looked it up. It's by a glam metal band called Dokken.
Nice.
Had to look it up. It's a good little tune on the soundtrack.
Yeah, totally.
I have to play. Oh, for sure. I have to map out like the things that I want to watch between now. Well, it's Halloween now, listener, but we're not recording on Halloween. I have to figure out the things that I want to watch in the next couple of days to kind of squeeze in the most Halloween stuff as possible. So maybe I'll revisit Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors.
Yeah, this is time where I kind of hash out my plan as well.
Excellent.
That's what you do.
So
You gotta really limit it to the top, whatever that means.
Yeah.
That's where you gotta go.
tops of the top, baby.
Tops of the top, cream of the butter, butter on the bread. Let's go.
You're a man of excellent
Cream
words
of
and
the-
vocabulary, my
cream
friend.
of the crop. Cream of the crop, not top of the top. The fuck is that?
Top of the top.
It's the top of the crop.
Speaking of top of the top,
Bowl.
what's going to make it into your top of the top 3, Mr.
All right.
Andrew?
Let us see. I'm gonna go with 2010 Predators.
Okay.
You're a motherfucker. I had this on my list too. I fucking hate you tonight. God damn it.
It's redemption time, Mike. This is for fantasy football. Fuck you. This is what you get. One of the best stories. I mean, you got Adrian Brody, this mercenary on a planet with a bunch of like serial killers and murderers and pieces of shit, and then you got the predators coming down hunting them, and it's got a great twist ending to it. Also, Mike, did you know this was directed by the same guy that directed Stranger Things 4?
Yeah. It's what's his name?
Nimrod Antal.
Don't tell me. Nimrod Antal. Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I didn't know that he directed Stranger Things 4.
Yeah, I was like, that's interesting. This is just a
Interesting.
very well done, unique style of movie that, I mean, I could have gone with it too. It's got Danny Glover. Is it Gary Busey or is it Nick? Those two.
It's I think it's Gary Busey's brother.
It's Gary Busey's brother.
Yeah. It's
Nick Nolte.
yes, Gary Busey's brother, Nick Nolte. Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke. No, I think it's, I don't know. Predator 2, trash movie. I love it. But Predators, awesome. Great concept. Just not necessarily a horror movie, but it's just it is a horror movie.
I would count this 1,000%. This movie rocks. This is the one it's also produced by Robert Rodriguez. So the violence and the kills are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think it is probably, I know you love Predator 2, Andrew. I think this is the best Predator sequel. I actually like this a bit more than Prey.
I think I actually
the newest one that came up.
this a bit more than Predator. Let's get crazy. I'm just gonna say that.
Another bold take. Another bold take. But yeah, this is the one that introduced kind of like the Predator dogs, and it's an awesome idea for the story to kind of flip around the first movie and it's instead of the Predator being on Earth, put the prey on the Predator's planet in a game reserve. And like you mentioned, Andrew, they're kind of like the most badass warriors and degenerates, from Earth. So there's a lot of different, a varying degree of characters that all get killed, and actually some awesome character actors.
When you get the ninja with the Predator in the tall grass, it's very dark.
Yeah, for sure. I love Predators. It's an awesome movie. And yeah, the ending is a little bit of a twist too. You are correct, and it's I remember it took me by surprise the first time I saw it. Not what you were expecting.
I didn't think Red Foreman's son was capable of it.
Yeah, right. Ugh, he's a fucking dork. What's fucking Topher Grace?
I mean, his name's Topher.
Well said. Well said. All right, so Predators off the board. I am removing it from my board right now. Any further thoughts on Predators before we go to me for 2 here, gentlemen?
It's all you, man.
Okay.
Let's see what we got.
All right, so let's see here. I am going to, with my first pick, I'm going to go back into the vault here and go back to the year 1943. Okay. And this is definitely a Mike movie if there ever was one. And so essentially, all the rage these days are Marvel movies. And a core element of those movies are the team-ups between multiple characters. And, lots of different heroes and villains sharing the same screen. Now, obviously, this was not as novel of a concept back in 1943 until a little movie came out of Universal Studios called Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which is an awesome sequel. And again, for, ahead of its time. And you get, obviously, 2 iconic Universal monsters that are essentially fighting each other. You have the Wolfman, obviously, and you have Frankenstein's monster. So what's interesting about this as well is that the Wolfman, Larry Talbot, is played again by Lon Chaney Jr., the most famous actor to play the role. And obviously, in the first Frankenstein movie, Frankenstein's monster was played by Boris Karloff. In this movie, the Frankenstein monster is played by Bela Lugosi, who is most famous for playing Dracula in the famous Dracula film. So it's interesting because you get a different Frankenstein. So it's just a cool concept for a movie. I mean, basically, like the loose plot here is that the Wolfman is brought back to life, and he's looking for a way to remove the werewolf curse. So he ends up going to try and seek advice from Dr. Frankenstein, and ends up duking it out with Frankenstein's monster. And it's just a cool, good time. If you're looking for a black and white classic monster movie, this is probably one that has passed you by because you're not a lunatic like me, and you should definitely check it out. I feel like this is very similar to, but obviously less comedic than to a movie like Abbott and Costello. What's the name of the one that we were talking about last week? Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, right? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Which is also awesome. I mean, technically that's a sequel, so that could have been picked. But
Or you have
Frankenstein.
Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla. That's a good.
Jesus,
that is a real movie.
That's a real movie.
Wait, what?
It's called Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla.
Get the
I think it's supposed to be like King Kong, but yeah.
There actually, wait, hold on. I'm on Wikipedia right now. There is actually Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla, also known as The Boys from Brooklyn, and in England as Monster Meets the Gorilla, is a 1952 American comedy horror science fiction film directed by William Bodine, starring horror veteran Bela Lugosi. Wow, that is a fucking insane title for a movie.
Yeah, it is very funny.
Thought that was a joke for sure, but hey, wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to.
It seemed a bit too specific for a joke. I was like, that's an interesting joke.
You can't make stuff like that up.
I'll have to add that one to my queue. All right, so Frankenstein meets the Wolfman off the board. Either of you guys seen that?
Yes.
Yes.
I have
randomly through the years. I always will go through binges of all those Universal monster movies here and there. They're only like an hour long.
Yeah, they're quick. They're all quick hits.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so I am going to pick one more here. And as Andrew opens another beer, I am going to defend a sequel that I have defended often. This one is more recent. The first movie, which came out, I believe, in 2016, was kind of widely hailed as a new horror classic, rightfully so.
Oh, I know where you're going with
and pretty tough to top that. And many people considered this to be a novel that is pretty tough to film based on some of the content in it. And Andy Muschietti, what he ended up doing is taking the part of the story where they're children, putting it in the first movie, and the part where they're adults and putting it in the second movie, which is called It Chapter 2. And this movie was pretty much universally hated by most people because the first one was so popular. And to those people, I say, you're dumb. Because the second movie, while, again, a very different movie from the first one, not everything in it is a home run. But I've always been a huge fan of the monster elements that are in the It novel. And I think that they do a good job kind of exploring those here. I also think that the actors they chose to play the adult version of the kids they cast in the first movie are fantastic. Specifically, Bill Hader as Richie Tozier is just a fucking awesome selection. And he steals every scene that he's in the entire movie. But, the cosmic horror elements of it were always going to be difficult to film. And I think that they did about as good of a job as they could have done with this movie. So, I mean, like, for examples, standout scenes to me, the Chinese restaurant scene. Some of the most insane shit you'll ever see, but fucking wild. I loved it. Dug it. The monsters, really, really cool. The scene with adult Richie, again, Bill Hader, with the fucking Paul Bunyan lumberjack thing and in Pennywise. Awesome. Pennywise in the House of Mirrors, awesome. Pennywise underneath the bleachers that kills a little girl, awesome. So I just thought this movie was very good, and I think it is unfairly hated because the first one was received so well. So I know you guys both have seen this, Do you guys have any love for It Chapter 2, or are you kind of on the other side of the fence? What do you guys think of this one?
I like the first
I like
one
it, Chapter 2. I thought it was good. The first one was obviously a better movie. I think the miniseries ran into the same problem. A lot of the adult actors in the miniseries wasn't as good as the parts with the children in it. I think the story itself generally is better when they're children. So I think they actually did a pretty good job. I didn't have a problem with that movie. I understand like people maybe not liking it as much as the first one. But in general, I thought it was good.
Yeah, the things I did like about the second one, I loved everything that had to do with Henry Bowers and Patrick Hockstetter. Like him.
I forgot about that part.
Like his
That's
corpse
awesome.
coming back to the mental hospital and like breaking him out. Like that happens in the book. And that's like one of the most chaotic parts of the book. It's like everything that has to do with Patrick Hockstetter in the original novel is the scariest part of the entire fucking. And so I was really into that whole part. And what is it? The when Bev goes back to like her like dad's old house, they did a good job adapting that part as well.
Another good scene. Yeah, I forgot about that part. Pennywise is terrifying in that scene too.
Yeah, that's gross.
That's very.
And Bill Skarsgård just.
I didn't realize that.
For sure. I mean, Bill Skarsgård just hits it out of the park in both movies as
Yeah.
Pennywise. He's just awesome. He's awesome. And obviously, the opening scene in It Chapter 2 is pretty disturbing stuff. Very difficult to watch.
Is that with the kid getting jumped?
Yeah, that's ugly.
Yeah, that's a heavy
shit.
that's a heavy chapter of the book.
Yeah, ripped right from the book. So
Yeah. I love how that
Yeah,
chapter was played out too. That was like the interviews back and forth.
Indeed, my friend. Indeed. So yeah, It Chapter 2 is off the board. Let's see here. So I am now at 4, and you guys will shortly be at 4 as well. You guys want to go for 5, or you want to stick with 4?
I'm good with either. I mean, I'm good with 5. 5 works. 5's good.
Let's go for 5. Okay. All right. So Andrew, where to you, my friend?
So, I feel like we don't give this.
I think we lost Andrew.
Freeze out.
Andrew? Matt, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Andrew's frozen on my thing.
Yeah, it looks like his internet connection dropped off, so I will edit out this stuff as we wait for Andrew to come back in.
At least we have the power to do that. He said his computer restarted.
I just saw that. All right, so I'll just go on mute and we'll silence this out until he comes back in.
What?
God damn, do you need a new computer?
Dude, the thing literally just fucking restarted right in the middle of it. I just removed my phone.
All right, no worries. Okay, so yeah, we pretty much you got cut off right at the beginning of what you were saying. So why don't you start over with what you're going to pick with your next one?
All right, ready? Go.
Yep.
So I feel like we don't give this guy enough props. Well, maybe we do, but I'm going to go with the 1972 film Dr. Phibes Rises Again, starring one Vincent Price.
Good evening again.
Good evening. I don't know if you guys have seen either of these movies, Dr. Phibes, The Abominable Dr. Phibes, or Dr. Phibes. But this one basically picks up where the other one leaves off. Anton Phibes is still trying to resurrect his dead wife. This time, though, he's traveling to Egypt in search of some scrolls to help him resurrect her. And in the meanwhile, he's being chased by these weird people, and he just kills them in these gory ways. It's like the original, like, dark comedy, like black comedy horror movie. It's so good. We need to dedicate a full episode to Anton Phibes, because if you guys haven't seen this movie, it's so good. It's so bad, but it's so good. Like,
it's on my list for sure.
Yeah, like I think in January when we're like mulling around ideas for movies we need to do, like we should do a little. We'll get into the Dr. Phibes.
I'd talk some Dr. Phibes with you, no problem. I love me some Vincent Price. So
he has the worst bowl cut ever in any. Like I've never seen a guy with a worse bowl cut. No, it's pretty amazing.
All right, and this one's called Dr. Phibes Rises Again.
Oh yeah, he's back up and at it. He's
risen. He is risen.
And he's ready to go.
All right, Dr. Phibes Rises Again off the board, which means that we are back to Matt for his final 2 selections.
All right. So I'm gonna go for my fourth pick. This is a near dear favorite of mine. I've loved this movie for a long time, and it is a rough. It's not great, so this is a guilty pleasure. But Amityville 2: The Possession.
Okay, I know you've talked about this movie before. Yeah.
This is always like on AMC Fear Fest. It was always on like late at night when I was really young, and it would come on TV, and I'd wake up and it would be on, and it would always scare the shit out of me. But basically, it almost plays as a prequel to the first one, but it's like a loosely based off of the actual family and the kid that killed this whole family there. But the whole possession aspect of it is super fucking creepy. There's some really good, really scary scenes in the middle of that movie when he does become possessed, and great shot of like a camera just spinning around in this big hallway, and it just gets faster and faster. And you know that while that's happening, he's going through some sort of transformation thing, and finally it just like comes in focus to his face, and he just looks fucking mad scary. So that one's always had a special place in my heart. There's a lot of really, really taboo, creepy, fucked up shit that happens in this movie, and that's why it's kind of a weird pick. But just once you get through the halfway point when he's actually possessed, it takes off. And Amityville 2: The Possession. It's 1982, so a few years after the first one.
Okay. Amityville 2. I have not seen this one. I'm glad you brought this up because I haven't seen the first one in forever either. So I'm looking for something to watch tonight.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm on my okay, I was going to say, well, I'm on my baby watching shift. I'm looking for some stuff to watch, so maybe I'll throw on the Amityville movies.
They'll creep you out.
So,
man.
Okay, I'm excited. I read the book a bunch of times when I was younger, and it scared the absolute shit out of me. So I love Amityville stuff. So, okay, Amityville 2: The Possession off the board, which means you have one pick left.
So, let's see. What do I want to do? I have a lot of stuff that I know won't get picked, but I think I am going to go with, it's a new one, just saw it, Terrifier 2.
Okay. I was wondering if this was going to get picked. I had a feeling that it might.
Yeah. So, obviously, me and Andrew went and saw this a few weeks ago.
I was going to say, I still haven't seen it, unfortunately, but the second it comes on demand, I'm going to watch it.
It'll be on Screenbox on Halloween.
Dude, that movie's killing it right now in theaters still.
Yeah, it's still
in theaters like
theaters too.
weeks ago.
But yeah, me and Andrew went and saw this. It's about just shy of 2.5 hours of just full blown, nonstop, just psychotic carnage. This movie was, and I can't believe I saw it in theaters, in a packed theater, no less. But it was a fun watch, and this is what I think at this movie coming out and doing as good as it's doing, and having the content that it has, is going to 100% be a massive impact on what comes to theaters in the next few years with horror. I think we're on the verge of a fucking totally rad, like, next 5 years of just crazy fucking horror movies.
I feel like between this, go ahead, Andrew.
I was gonna say, this movie is a game changer. It literally just showed people that you can put out a super gory horror movie and people will run into line to see it. And Art the Clown is like the new age Freddy Krueger, Leatherface. Like, he is the face of horror right now.
Yeah, he's that guy. Him, and then you also have Mia Goth, who's tearing it up with X and Pearl. In 1 year, you have these two like massive icons that have just become the two, like we just said, faces of horror. So between those movies that came out this year, we're looking at a fun future, I think.
I would lump Barbarian in there as well, because I mean, that was a pretty small horror movie that just through word of mouth alone killed
Barbarian fucking kicks ass too.
So yeah, that definitely, I think I would lump that in there too. But yeah, I can't wait to see this movie. I feel like, you know, the fact that it was released and is still out there is just wild to me. Is it still playing in Kingston right now?
I don't know, but it's
extending
over 5 million in theaters right now.
Okay,
which is pretty impressive when you think about it.
Right? Yeah, that is awesome. But yeah, Art the Clown, awesome new villain.
The article about how well it's doing. it's killing it. Like they didn't expect. They planned on just a weekend release basically for this movie, and it's turned into it's almost been a month. Yeah, because it just keeps doing well. And
so from what it looks like, I can see here, it's the closest it's playing to us is in Dartmouth, the Dartmouth Mall, and then it's playing on Tremont Street in Boston. Looks like one showing a day, so it's probably going to be gone next week when Halloween's gone.
Yeah,
let's go, Mike. We'll bring Bridget. Let's do it.
Maybe we will. I feel like she'd sleep through the whole fucking thing anyway. It wouldn't even matter, but I feel like she'd be a little young for that. So
I think that the Mendon Drive-In is playing with Smile.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, now see, that would be dope. I miss a good drive-in theater. Horror movies at drive-in theaters. Horror movies at drive-in theaters just hit different, as the kids would say. Andrew, you really, I can't really make out much of what you're saying. What was that?
Did you? I kind of want to see Smile. Like I'm kind of interested in seeing that movie.
Which movie?
Yeah.
Smile.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard it's good.
Yeah, me too.
They did a very interesting marketing campaign. Did you hear anything about their marketing campaign?
Yeah, during baseball playoffs, right?
Yeah, they just had some weird person standing behind home plate smiling the entire time. And they just had a shirt that said Smile. It was pretty interesting. I thought that was kind of cool.
Fucking genius, man. Smart idea.
See, that made me hate it. That made me not want to see it.
I mean, yeah, if you have that much money to market something, then I mean, they could have paid me to go do that. I would have gone to a playoff.
Free baseball game.
Except they would have had
like dope seats.
I would be frowning the whole time. Boo.
All right, so let's see. So Terrifier 2 off board for Mr. Audette, which means that we are back to Andrew for his final pick.
So I was thinking about this. I could go the cupcake route and pick Stepfather 2, which I love, because that's a phenomenal movie. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go with Patrick Still Lives. I doubt you guys have seen this movie.
I was gonna say, what the fuck is that?
Have you ever seen the movie Patrick? I think it was 1978, Australian movie.
I've heard of it because I feel like you've brought it up before.
I have, yes. It's like he's like a comatose patient that has like telekinetic powers to he kills people while he's in a coma. Basically, doctors are studying it. So the remake is actually an Italian film that was completely unauthorized. They just did their own thing. It was directed by Mario Landi, not to be confused with the same place that like Toadstool and Princess and Luigi live, which is Mario Land. It's Mario Landi. So don't get that confused. It's a terrible joke, but you know,
a swing and a miss. That's okay. A for effort.
This movie, it's like a very low budget Italian film, and it's got super gore. It's got one of the most uncomfortable, disgusting scenes in a movie that you'll ever see. Essentially, Patrick is taken. He's like in this like psychiatric ward house, whatever you want to call it, and they invite like 5 people there to all just live there, and then he just starts killing everybody, and there's just some really gruesome deaths. Like a fireplace poker essentially penetrates a woman in areas that you shouldn't, penetrate anybody in, and it's just there's some gore and just grossness to this movie that it's
Yikes.
Just like the fact that it was completely unauthorized and they just made it anyway, it just makes it worth the watch. Like, I don't even know. I think I had to rent it on Amazon, so you'll probably have to do the same. It's not like it's streaming anywhere. Like, no one's like, "Hey, what's this movie?" But
it's essentially a fan film then.
Basically, yeah. They were just like, "Yeah, but we like this movie. We're going to make a remake. We're going to make a sequel to it. We don't care if you authorized it. We're just going to do it anyway." And it's like none of the same actors. Completely. The first one was an Australian film. This one's Italian. They're just like, yeah, okay, we're doing this. So it's worth watching though. I'd give it a pop it on and see what you think.
I love that move. Just do it.
Okay. Patrick Lives Again.
No, Patrick Still Lives.
Patrick Still Lives. Okay, sorry.
He never didn't live.
He's always been living. He just still lives. He should be dead, but he still lives.
All right. He's still kicking it, my man. All right, so I'll close this out here with a movie that, again, is criminally underseen and I think is a very underrated sequel to what a movie that some would call like a modern classic. I stand among those people. A movie that we have not yet to cover on this podcast would be The Strangers. And the sequel to The Strangers, which is called Strangers Prey at Night, is very, very good. Have either of you guys seen this?
I've not seen that movie.
Okay, so Strangers Prey at Night. Basically, it is a very similar concept. It is directed by a guy named Johannes Roberts, who has directed some other things, I believe. I can find out. But it's very similar. It's the same killers from the first film, with the same masks, or obviously with the same masks. You're led to believe that it's the same killers, just enacting another randomized killing spree. And it's a new collection of people that are on the receiving end of their carnage. And what I'll say is that it does not necessarily unfold the way that you think it's going to unfold. It's got Christina Hendricks in it. I Chihuahua, one of my favorites. Love me some Christina Hendricks. Martin Henderson, who's like one of those guys that you'll see and you'll be like, I know him. He's been in a bunch of shit. And they have a couple of kids. And they go on vacation, and they're in either a mobile home park or like a trailer park, something like that. I think it's like a campground type mobile home park, and that's where the strangers choose to attack. One of the kids is played by Lewis Pullman, who is Bill Pullman's son. You might recognize him from he was in what was that awesome Amazon Prime sci? Yeah, Outer Reach. He was in Outer Reach. He's been in a few other things. He actually had a pretty good year. But yeah, it's just really cool. The kills are very creative. And Matt, so Rebecca McKendry on Colors of the Dark always talks about this one particular scene in this movie where it is one of the characters trying to evade the strangers at this pool at like a little rundown motel, and the hotel sign is lit up in like all these neon colors. And the way it just reflects off like the pool surface and the pool itself kind of juxtaposed with like the chase that's going on. It's an awesome, awesome scene.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would highly recommend checking out The Strangers Prey at Night.
Okay.
Very cool sequel that you probably haven't seen.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out for sure.
And that's what I got. All right. So that's going to do it for a draft here. Why don't we all go back around the horn here and list off all the movies that we have? And let's see, Matt, you had the first pick, so why don't we start with you?
Sure. So my first pick was 78, Dawn of the Dead. And then I had Evil Dead 2, followed by A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. And then I did Amityville 2, The Possession, and Terrifier 2. Just came out a month.
A solid selection to close it out, if I do say so myself. Can't wait to see that fucking movie. All right, Andrew, what do we have for your 5?
So I went with 2019 Dr. Sleep, followed by 1988 Hellbound, the sequel to Hellraiser. Then I took the 2010 film Predators, followed by the 1972 gem Dr. Phibes Rises Again, and not to be outdone, I took the 1980 film Patrick Still Lives.
Patrick Still Lives. Indeed he does. Solid selections, and again, fuck you for taking Dr. Sleep, and fuck you.
Dr. Phibes.
Yeah, Dr. Phibes, and for taking Predators as well.
I mean, I also had, if you think about it, Hellraiser 2 had Dr. Chenard, so I was just all about them doctors. So.
Yeah.
Lots of doctors being picked tonight. All right, and that means that I am last here, and I had Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, the 2016 sequel to the Blair Witch Project, which is simply called Blair Witch. I had 1943's Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. I had 2016's It Chapter 2. And to close everything out, I had The Strangers Prey at Night, which is from 2018. And that's what we got. So, good little draft tonight, guys. Lots of fun to be had. And listeners, hope you enjoyed listening to us rant and rave about these movies as well.
Mhm.
And who do you think drafted the best squad? I feel like that's one thing that we need to put out there and see who people have the best opinion of in this one. So maybe I'll throw a poll out in our social media things to see what people think.
Yeah, tell us your favorite sequels too. What do you like to watch?
Yeah, we're always looking for more movies to watch. So if you have some sequels that we missed, obviously this wasn't the deepest dive into sequels, but if there's something that you feel very strongly about, any Worm movies that you feel strongly about, or any Vincent Price movies that you feel strongly about, be sure to let us know in the comments. And again, this is the last episode of October. Can't believe another spooky season has come and gone, but the good news is Spooky Steven, Spooky season never sleeps for us here in America's Hometown Horror. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Jesus Christ. We'll keep coming back with new horror content every week because it's what we love to do and what we love talking about. And just because October is not with us does not mean that spooky season is over. So, with that being said, if you're interested in more of what we have to say here on this podcast, or if you're looking for a new podcast platform, I should say, pretty much find us on all the major ones: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Spreaker, and we'll be right here wherever you're listening to us next week. So keep the same one if you want. Doesn't really matter to us, but if you are on iTunes or Spotify, if you want to give us a review, hopefully a 5-star review, but any sort of review would really help us boost the show, and we would really appreciate it. So, with that being said, this has been another episode of the show. Happy Halloween to all, and thanks to my co-hosts, Matt and Andrew. Gentlemen, good evening, and say goodbye to your listeners.
Goodbye.
Adios, muchachos.
Peace! Hey everyone, it's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and just wanted to say thank you again for listening to another episode of our show, because of course, we would be nothing without you listeners. If you are interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I would highly recommend you check out some shows by our cohorts on the Inebriart Podcast Network. That's right, the Inebriart Podcast Network, folks. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find the Inebriart Podcast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, Retro Redoctopus, and Old Colony Cast. Head on over and give them a listen.